When I hit that house in 2010, I left my body, I died and came back into consciousness. I woke up from life support, but I was still very defiant, broken home, broken life, broken spirit, broken everything. Then you have a criminal record on you, you have an emergency protection order on you, you have your kids taken away, you're going to jail, you're this, you're that. And then how do you change your life through all of that?
Broken home, broken dreams. Gave my mind to these millions and my heart to the game. Probably die up in these streets, but I survived through my name.
Welcome back to Broken Home Podcast. Hope you're all having a fantastic week. Our next guest, he lived a wild life and he died in a wild way. Now, I know that sounds kind of crazy, but he's going to tell us his story. Malcolm, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Great. Even when times are hard, you got to feel fantastic. You got to try.
Yeah. Absolutely. For our viewers, why don't you tell us a little bit where you're from and what it was like growing up?
So my parents divorced when I was 1 year old, and my mom moved to Vancouver, BC, British Columbia. So I grew up there in the BC housings. In that area, you'd hear gunshots, and you would walk by like alleyways and you'd see hookers and bums having sex, and then you'd see I just grew up looking at that as normal. Like I'd go to the corner store for 30 cents, get a 30-cent donut, and it was normal because there was so much abuse going on in my home that I thought that was like gentle on my eyes, because the stuff that was happening at home, different men coming in and out, and I seen my mom take a chopper to my stepdad's head, like a butcher knife, and it was just stuck in his head. And every dinner I would see like broken plates smashed on the walls, and my stepdads and uncles and whatever you call them being beat by the phone by my mom, the old school phones that are connected with the wire. Just a lot of toxicity, a lot of abuse, a lot of emotional abuse. And then I used to visit my dad for summer holidays in Calgary, Alberta. And so I was very young, getting transported by police officers, and then the flight attendants would take me onto the plane and stuff like that. So I was around cops and stuff early on. So I started to think that was my life, and I was a rebel. I was very defiant, and I got into drugs early on as well. I was 12. I ran away from home. I dropped out of school when I was 11 years old. I barely even made it through grade like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I don't have an educational background. My parents called me dumb, stupid, flushed my brain down the toilet ever since I was born, basically. My mom drank bleach when I was in her stomach because my dad used to beat her and kick her in the stomach and stuff. So she tried to drink bleach and all that kind of stuff. So I have so much, and it's hard to give a straight story because
Yeah.
there would be sometimes I'd be with social workers or child care services, and then there was times where I was taken out of school, or I was just a lot of stuff. And by the time
Too
I was
much. Too
too much.
much for a child.
Yeah, by the time I was 14, I was a crack addict. I was already doing cocaine and stuff before that. My next door neighbors were one of the biggest drug dealers in the lower mainland there, and I didn't know. And then I was just out smoking, and I'm like, there was a lady out there. I'm like, hey, do you have an extra cigarette? And she's like, oh, just call me auntie. And I'm like, all right, okay, that's how it all started. And then she's like, my nephews and nieces and people come here all the time. I'm like, okay. And she's like, yeah, you come over anytime, hang out, ask me for a cigarette, whatever. So I came by just a few hours later, and literally it's a crack house. Like there's pookies everywhere. There's people coming in for hits, purchasing. There's drug dealers pulling in and out of really nice vehicles, like expensive vehicles. And I started chilling there every day. I got introduced to crack and I couldn't stop. It was, I want more, some more, some more. No, I didn't feel it. Some more. I didn't feel it. Some more. And I got addicted very early on. I would drive them, escort them, because some of the girls were escorts, and I'd drive them to their locations and then pick them back up and then go back home and hang out. And then I'm talking at that age, I was already doing 8 balls, 3 8 balls a day or more. It was crazy, a bad life. I felt soulless,
Yeah.
and I was looking for solace, right? I was looking for love. I was looking for something. I was looking for uh, something to gravitate to because I didn't get it from home. I didn't get it from my dad. They were divorced. I didn't get it from my mom. I was just looking for connection. And so, it just life took me like that.
What age were you starting to make trips over to visit your father?
I was as early as I can remember, like 5 6 years old, 5 years old.
What was your relationship with your dad like?
It was toxic and abusive. It was, he loved you from afar, but he would butt heads with you. He would condemn you, judge you. But then he was married, right? So they would put you down. If I came with like holes in my socks, that like, fucking mom, she's a bitch, she's a hooker, she can't even get you socks, and it's because of that bitch and and it was like very bad and very toxic, you know. And then on the other side, I felt bad for my mom. I felt bad. And then by the time I was in grade 6, they enrolled me in school and stole me from my mom. They took me to the social workers and made me say certain things. And then they enrolled me in school behind my mom's back. And then so that got really hard and stressful on me at a young age too. And I became defiant more. And then I ran away back to my mom and then never went back to school and got back into drugs again. And then just doing this bad stuff. Like I can go into worse things, but I don't want to portray worse things. Like I was doing some bad stuff.
And did your mother
Just
move you a lot where your father had no idea where you were a lot of the time?
no, he had custody, right? So they had visitation and stuff
Okay.
like that. So they didn't play no games. They played games, but they you know they made sure they had some type of custody. So yeah.
Yeah. You ran away from your father to be back with your mother. How was that relationship between you two?
I used to call my mom a hooker and a slut all the time. I used to call her a bitch and a whore. I had I was very toxic and my mind was so messed up, but she unconditionally loved me. She was always there for me. She would drive me to appointments and I would spit in her face and slap her. I was disgusting. Um, I like now I can say it like that, but like, back then I didn't know how to have a relationship with a woman. I didn't know how to love a woman. I didn't know how to appreciate or respect. I didn't know nothing. I just knew abuse and I just knew how to put people down and I just was very aggressive. I didn't know how to be vulnerable. Uh, it was crazy. Let's just put it
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
So did you have many positive role models growing up?
Nah. You would see some people talking. I would have a crackhead once in a while say, "Hey, son, get out of this circle. You're too young. You're only 12. You're only 13. You're only 14." I actually started smoking cigarettes and getting into alcohol and marijuana when I was 8 years old. My family's from Fiji, right? So when my mom would go on vacation, I would go with them. And then I had older cousins. They taught me about like bad stuff, like sex and sleeping around with, they were disgusting lifestyle upbringing. I got a good look into, you know, molestation and rape and the understanding at such an early age, coming from my own background, like them talk, like cousins saying, I did this with that cousin. I want that auntie. I want that. Like it was just like And such a young kid just kind of looking into that and then expanding my mind in a negative way,
Yeah.
it, it was different, right? Um, and as I got older, my relationship with my mom, got better. We were very close. She always kept in touch, but then there were times where it got ruined. I didn't speak to them for years. And even now we don't have a close relationship, but she'll still call, she'll talk to my kids, but I'm not as close with my family because of the personal development and growth that I've endured. Sometimes you leave people behind, and you grow so much that you're just not on the same level with other people anymore. I don't see eye to eye with certain people. They don't, it's very uncomfortable. Like I'll talk about something and I see some lack in them and they get uncomfortable. And it's just like, I'm like out of the matrix, like
Yeah.
I, I see the non-player characters and it's like, sometimes you see that in your own family, and,
Yeah.
I'm learning still to ignore and understand that people are still asleep.
After everything that you've gone through, how is this affecting you as a father now, seeing how you grew up, and how are you going to incorporate the things that you've learned to maybe keep your kids in a safer place than you were in when you were younger?
Yeah, that's a good one. Obviously, it has smartened me up because I messed up with my first son. I have a 20-year-old son out there as well, and he doesn't live with me. I dealt with the court system and all that alienation back and forth, custody, child stuff, and all that for 12 years. And then with my kid, my little ones now, like I have a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old. I'm very mindful, I teach them to be very intelligent and aware. I get them to see circumstances and don't have to go through the pain and suffering to learn. And I call them out straight up. I'm tough, but I give them the love. I'm very nurturing, very caring, but I'm also very straight up and very direct. So I'm a chameleon with my kids. I got cool kids, let's just put it that way.
Yeah. How did you learn to love?
By learning how to love myself, learning that I had to forgive the enemy that was inside of me. I tainted my spirit so bad that my ego got the best of me. I didn't know, which one was the devil, which one was the angel, but it was all me. And I had to learn how to even hug the devil in me. I had to learn how to hug the devil in the worlds. Like there's devils out there. There's evil spirits out there. If you can't forgive yourself, how can you forgive another enemy out there? How can I forgive my rapist? I was raped when I was 18 years old, by a man. And I never said this on a podcast before, but this is Broken Home podcast, right? So you guys, got that out of me, right? But if you dig deeper, maybe you get more out of me. But um, you know, I had to forgive. I had to learn how to love and send love to people like that. And if you can't send love to people like that and give people a second chance, then why are we here on planet Earth, right? If we're judging and condemning and that's all we're doing, then we're no better than the next guy. We have, if I was never given a second chance to change my life around, I would be a criminal. I would be in jail. I was in jail. I was a criminal. I had 7-year criminal records. I had emergency protection orders on me. I had all of that. I've been through it all, right? I had my license taken away. I was on probation like 3 times, right? I had to learn how to love the circumstances regardless. And it taught me how, like, through loving, looking at the uh, circumstances and changing my perspective, I was able to bend my reality. I was able to like quantify my life experience just from shifting the lens, how I was looking at things.
Yeah.
When did that time come? When did that shifting happen for you where you had to change that lens?
It didn't even happen after my car accident. Like when I hit that house in 2010 and I left my body, I died and came back into consciousness and everything, it didn't even happen then. I made more mistakes. And then my spirit would, for example, my keys were taken out of my ignition and put on the passenger side. I had so many out of body experiences, so many things that I can do that are unexplainable, that I teach now. And I teach people how to remote view and how to change reality and how to do certain things, how to project and manifest and stuff. But when I made the mistakes again, we have a choice. So I had a choice to teach myself how to endeavor through the pain and suffering. So, when you're an angry person and you can't even breathe for a minute and you can't even, and all you do is react and snap. Um, I had to learn that there's this root cause. There's something that lies beneath that. There's something that stems. So I had to discover and slow down and learn how to really pause and slow down. And that started happening, I think, around 20, 25, 26, 27. At 23, I woke up from life support, but I was still very defiant, very negative. I wanted to teach the world everything. I wanted to tell everybody where to go. I wanted to pull everything that everyone in the world brushes under the carpet, and I wanted to bring it out and shove it in their face. But I still had that connection to source. I was awakened, right? Because of my experience a little bit more. It was slow. Like, I still made a lot of mistakes, but it's a journey, it's a journey. You
Yeah.
gotta take it easy, you gotta enjoy the process. It's a process, right? What do they say? Practice makes progress, right?
Mhm.
I always catch my clients. I say practice makes, and then they say perfect. I'm like, get that shit out of your mouth. No, progress. Just keep making progress. Look how far you've come. Look at, I know how to transmute dark energy. So I would be able to like emotionalize and cry in a way where I'm not crying because of sympathy or empathy. I'm not crying because of pain and suffering. I'm crying because, damn, I'm coming from that 5-year-old kid. I'm coming from that 15-year-old. I'm coming from that 20-year-old, that 23-year-old. And I thank how far I've come. You know,
Yeah.
you got to count your blessings like that. And I never used to realize what it meant to count your blessings, right?
Could you take us through the night that you had your car crashed, when everything changed, when your eyes were opened up?
Long story short, I was a party animal. I was the one to walk into the clubs, and everybody would like look at me, and I don't know what it was about my energy back then. I do know, sir. I do know what it is about my energy, but I would walk into places and just people would always have it in for me. Like either girls would come towards me, want me, or guys would not want me, but they would want to fight me. And it was crazy. I don't know why. It's my energy. I knew there was something about my energy. So I just knew how to attract negative things or wrong things or circumstances. I was partying. That was my life, drinking and driving. And then one day I'm at home. It's the weekend. Work days are done. It's the weekend, and I wanted to like party and drink and hang out with girls, right? So the typical story that I say everywhere, and um, I said, this is what's going to happen. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to project a feeling of I want to be with a bunch of girls. I want to be with a bunch of drugs. I want to be partying. I just want to, I was empty. I was soulless, right? And I was just looking for that. And so it happened exactly how I visualized it. It happened. And I'm at a girl's house and she's calling up other girls. And I was getting bored. Seriously, I had all the alcohol, all the drugs, cocaine for free. Like they're lining it up, these girls, chicks in the kitchen and saying, okay, yours is ready, come. And I'm going there and I'm going back. I have a bag of shrooms and I'm chewing on my mushrooms and, you know, and weed, and there's guys drinking on the balcony, and then the girls say, hey, Malcolm, your line's ready. And then I go and then like it's like stupid life, right? So, and the girls that I'm waiting for don't come, like what I wanted. Well, what did I imagine? Like some escort, like sexy girls can come, like, come to my bed, like, let's go do what you want to get jiggy with it. Like, come on, right? So that kind of stuff didn't happen. And so I'm like, all right, I call up someone else. I'm like, yo, where you at? What are you doing? I want to meet up. I want let's meet up. So I say to everybody, I'm like, I'm gonna bounce. I'm gonna leave. I'm out. And so the girls are like, don't leave, Malcolm. Are you okay? Like you're aren't you fucked? I'm like, no, like I'm good, right? And at that, I had a high tolerance. Like after drinking and doing things like that, I'd go to people's house and have a bottle of whiskey and sip on that all night and then drink till you're sober type of days, right? And I say, okay, I'm gonna go. And I get into the car and I started losing sight of things. And I'm like, I'm good. What's going on? And I'm just like, okay, I remember that's where it is. Okay, that's where we go. And I'm going and I'm finding myself going in circles. I don't know where I'm going. I'm getting confused. I'm getting lost. And then I just start seeing lights flashing before my eyes. And and I didn't realize then, but I realize now that's how fast I was going. I was going so fast that the lights were going that fast, and I didn't hit nothing yet. And I'm just pedal to the metal. I'm just going like straight, and I forget where she is, and I just keep driving. And something in me, and I always say that our spirits will they're whispering to us, or it's going to lead you to an inevitable death because we're tainting our souls. Mine definitely kept trying to whisper to me, and didn't know how to listen to it. And I was defiant against it. I used my ego against it. So I ended up actually, continuing to dismiss it. And my spirit just, allowed me to lose control. And so I kept driving very fast, 100 kilometers an hour, and I side swiped two vehicles and I black out. I bang my head on my windshield, and I push down harder on the gas, and I go up and I hit the corner foundation of a brick home and impact immediately. I eject out of the vehicle head first. It was like a bomb went off. It was in the investigation. The family in the house left their notes and stuff, and they thought a bomb went off. And they came out. They see a dead body hanging off the car. My shirt bloody off of my body. The battery, the car, the engine, everything is destroyed and out of the car. I say this, but I gotta say it in such a way where people don't just look at me like, oh, okay, yeah, that's a miracle, or you did that. I want to also be confused about it, but I know what happened. My body was actually found on the passenger side of the car. And so people don't know how that happened, right? You saw my story. I explained what happened. Like I do out of body things, and like my spirit was able to come in and out of my body. So my body was dragged from there to the passenger side. And so when everyone came, the investigation was held like that. Immediately, I started to feel myself separate from my body and notice and observe. And now I put all of these keywords into teachings, right? Like notice, we're noticers, right? We have to observe, right? So, but I started to do that, and I started to have a out of body experience, and my spirit was out of my body, and I'm able to explain to people everything, like what people were saying, what I saw, what the ambulance was doing to me. They're resuscitating me, taking me to the hospital. And I was able to see family members coming in and out. I was able to tap into the phone calls that people were having. So I was able to go into the telephone wire, like visually. I remember going into my spirit, going into listening to my mom's consciousness, her thoughts, and thinking, like mumbling while the phone is ringing, and then she would say it, and then I'll tap in and go all the way to where my family member would receive the phone call. So I was able to do things like that. And I started to notice like the power that we have within, right? And so immediately I started to tap into that, and I would come back to my body, follow them taking me to surgeries, and then like travel around the hospital and go like check out different cousins and family members. And then, but I would always come back close to my body because I didn't know what I was supposed to do. Was I supposed to just stay on earth and just, or was it like I didn't know where I was supposed to go, what I was supposed to do. So I was just a spirit out of my body. There came a point where I couldn't breathe. Even though they had me on a breathing apparatus, they had me in a neck brace, they had everything in me, but my spirit knew my body could have died, became a vegetable. So my spirit came back into my body, took off my neck brace. And remember, when I woke up off life support, it was like a ton of bricks fell on me. My hands, my body was crushed. I had glass, shards of glass coming out of me. Like you could see the scars, like my
Yeah.
tendons, my nerves, everything cut. I have this line here. I had bleeding in my brain. I was diagnosed with brain damage, short-term memory loss. My lung collapsed. So I wasn't supposed to move. When I woke up off life support, I was limp, but I took off my neck brace, and the doctors, the nurses came in, they started panicking. My mom started screaming. But I knew that that would have kept me alive. So my spirit needed to do that, give my body the strength to take it off. So I took it off. They said, maybe he's responding. Right when they gave my mom the decision to make, that they might need to unplug me. I'm doing the fast way. You watched my other documentary.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
go a little bit slower, but so my mom finally decides, after talking to the family members and stuff, that she's gonna unplug me from life support. I end up having this awareness of there's a surrender about to happen. There's something that's gonna happen. My spirit just had a calling. I had a calling. And right when she was making that decision, I was making a decision. And I started to leave and just go and float above the hospital out of the room, and I would see everything, and I was just leaving. I was just like being gravitated, like pulled, and I was taken, and I was watching everything, the atmosphere, the sky and everything, and I was like what's the purpose here? But in that moment I realized that, hey, like I was always in control. I always fucked up. I always made mistakes. So try your level best to not be in control. So I just was very vulnerable as a spirit. So that's how slowly, when I came back to life, I started to discover vulnerability, letting go, surrendering. But it took years to remember the process. And it all had to do with my near death experience. I surrendered, I let go, and I went all the way up to a it's exactly what everyone says because there's millions of people saying it. It was like a tunnel, like a funnel, like a vortex, like a wormhole, like, and it takes you, and it was like traveling. Like once you enter, you're like traveling light years or super fast, and you're just going, and you're just in this void. I was worried that it was going to stay like that. I didn't know where I was going. I was like questioning, is there going to be light? Is it going to be black? And I was going through nerves. I was nervous. And then it got all black. Then all the wormhole and all the color kind of, all the thought and frequencies, like X-Men, Xavier, you see, like he sees that all.
Cerebro.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
you
yeah.
get to see all the thoughts, feelings, emotions of everything you left behind. So I'm like seeing it all at a glimpse, but then it gets better when I get up there because I do a whole life review. So I finally enter black, and then I see white. And then I kind of go upright, and I can see, and it was just white. And then I feel embrace, like a welcoming to come, right? And so I felt like immediately I felt safe. I felt like I was back where we came from, like back home, your comforts. I felt home. I felt peace. I felt love. I felt safe. I felt like received. And so, without getting too all bubbly and stuff, that's exactly how it felt. Right. And then I enter and, I see like angels, my angels. I don't know if they were my cousins, it was my grandma that died, if it was my mom's mom who died earlier, if it was my cousin that died before when I was 15, or it was my grandfather that died before when I was 13. Like, I didn't know, but I knew they knew me and I knew them. They were all in like this, like just like surrendering, but it's like they were looking at you but not looking at you, talking to you but not talking to you. And then I look over and I see another angelic, massive source being. And then he asked me, like, are you ready, or what are you gonna do? In my head, I didn't know, right? And I, and then I immediately saw, I was given a scene of my life review, right? It's like what you hear in some accounts. You hear like in abductions or UFOs, but you hear it in near death experiences. But when you're shown a glimpse of your life. So I was shown a glimpse of my life, literally in my entire life, of what I could have done, what I should have done, or what I would have done, how I could have treated people, how people treated me, or how like, used people, lied to people, abused, negated situations, avoidance. I was a fraudulent, was shown to me. And so, man, that was a wake up call. And then I'm like contemplating, like, oh, then I have kids and I have a mom that I'm never going to talk to, that I hated. But man, that's my mom. Man, my dad I hate, but that's my dad. But, like, and I was just like, no, I can't leave like this. And I didn't beg or nothing, but telepathically, he asked, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I'm going to go back. All right. I want to go back. I can't, like, I'm going to go back. Are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. And right, I felt another release and a surrender. And I entered back out of the white light, back into the void, into the black. I go back the same way I came, all the light and fluffy stuff, like, oh, back into the dark and all the way back. And I see the hospital and I go back to my body, forgot everything. I woke up off life support. What happened to my leg? Can't move my arm. Like, what the fuck? My mom's sitting there, my sister's sitting there. That's when she unplugs me, right? And 3 minutes, 4 minutes later, I wake up and that's my reaction from waking up. Instead of feeling all that love and all that bliss and all that remembering of my life review, I was just like thinking, what are you doing here? Like, why are you sitting here? Weren't you the mom that did this? Weren't you the mom that said this? What's my sister doing there? Like, fuck, isn't this bitch, like, she doesn't care about me? Why is she here? But I didn't say all that, right? And I don't feel that way, but I'm just being authentic and honest, right? That's how negative I was. So I need to use words to express to people, hopefully they don't judge me, but I'm being real, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was like that. I was negative, right? I just it was nasty. My mom's like, shouldn't you be grateful? We thought we lost you. You woke up. Like, shouldn't you be happy? And I'm like, and I forgot. I didn't contemplate anything right then and there. Right? It was just like, you're unplugged, light switch. You wake up, and you're into now a broken body, and you don't, and you're like, oh, you're back into the old person, right? And it's like, it's a journey, man. It's a huge process to change that guy that I used to be, especially from childhood, from birth, broken home, broken life, broken spirit, broken everything, and then how to change your life and transform your life. Then you have a criminal record on you. You have an emergency protection order on you. You have your kids taken away because now you're a bad person. You're going to jail. You're this, you're that. And then how do you change your life through all of that? How do you how do you bend reality? How do you go through that and quantify the experience? And I was able to do all that. I was able to build relationships with people. I was able to go into court, change my frequency and change the environment and my aura around me and manipulate judges, manipulate police officers, but positively for them to see that, okay, you're deserving. We're going to take this away. You don't owe this fine. You don't own this fee. We're going to remove the arrears off your child support. But at first it was hard. It was like, because I was negative. So negative was coming to me. It was like, no, you owe this much. You owe her. It doesn't matter. We don't believe you. You weren't hospitalized. You were abusive. Like, oh, you're walking. So you're not crippled. You're walking. They treated me so bad. But then as I kept going, when you appeal the court orders and stuff, I learned how, through every circumstance I went through, how to shift my perspective and then in return bend the reality. Slowly start to learn how to get my driver's license back, learn how to do all this, but it was changing my perspective. I was in jail. I went to jail another time and I learned how to change my vibration in jail. Mm-hmm. Like, when you go to jail, you got to bend, you're naked, they ask you to cough and then you go shower and then there's other guys there. But I knew how to be who I like, show my external side, but change my internal side. So guys that were big and aggressive, like, nah, I'm not going to fuck with him. Like, I can tell you were big or you got stretch marks here. And I'm like, I just ignored that, calmed down. And then my internal me, I was like, I'm changing my thoughts, my frequencies. And I'd literally, be laying there and then I would premonize the judge getting my documents, my order, and then the police officer calling me. And then literally 10 minutes later, same thing happened. And then they'd be like, okay, you're good. You got to go see the judge now. I would go see the judge. And then, I would show an energy of I'm changed. And I had to prove it, because if I bullshitted my way, then that's another slap on my spirit, another slap in life. And I've already done too much of that. So you don't want to slap source in the face when you're given these types of chances, right? And a lot of people do that. They're given chances, they come back to life. There's so many near-death experiences. So many people come back. So many people relapse. So many people have been on drugs. But are they walking the walk still? Are they having a mind, body, spirit connection? Are they changing every aspect of their life? So
it's the only way to succeed. Coming from, I used to be an addict. I used to be an alcoholic too. I had to change the whole rewiring of my brain in order to live a normal life like a human.
Exactly. Yeah.
When you're kind of looking at that, the highlight reel of your life, right? Yeah. Like, I mean, I think I remember this saying, like, the definition of hell is seeing who you could have been. Is there anything that you remembered through that highlight, that really sticks out to you to this day?
Yeah, that I was going to stay broken, a dumbass, illiterate, not, and I had a kid that was growing up at that time that I was going to come back and he's going to be smarter than me. I was uneducated. I had no education. So then the fact that I had a kid that was 12, no, not 12 at that time, he must have been 7 at that time, that could have potentially been smarter than his dad that just woke up off life support. Mm. Imagine that. Yeah. Like a 7-year-old that could write better, speak better, have more common sense than a grown man. Like, I wasn't even a man. I was not even a grown man. I was still an inner child. And that was one. 2 was the relationship with women. My relationship, I was a jealous, insecure man. I would create scenes and scenarios in my mind. Jealousy is fucked up.
That didn't even happen.
That didn't even happen. Or that didn't happen. You're creating it for it to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even I'm doubling it up. I'm like, it doesn't exist, but I'm making it exist. I'm creating it, and then I'm like, you're doing this, aren't you? And then I was such a, I said in another interview, and people meet me, I have clients, they work with me, they know, but I always admit, I tell the truth, I was a narcissist. I was label me what you want. I was that. I was it all. Name me the devil. I was attracting spirits, negative spirits. I got almost possessed. The devil was trying to come and attack me and strangle me in my sleep one time. But you know what it is? It's you're attracting it. You could be untouchable or you could be touchable. Which one do you want to choose? You know what I mean? You got to change so much about you. But there's so much, my man, that I noticed that highlight reel or that life review showed me so much that put me into a panic, put my spirit into a panic that I had to prove it. And I call it sacrifice because when I came back, I was a chronic smoker, 2 packs of cigarettes a day. So I was smoking from when I was 8 years old. It was hard for me to quit, but I had to change the story in my head. So then it was so hard to quit. So I said, look, if I don't quit, kill me again. I'm going to die. And I sacrificed to God and my spirit. And I kid you not, I caught pneumonia and I was dying and I was killing myself. I was spitting up liquid, filling up cups and cups of liquid over and over and over. And I was literally dying. I went to a walk-in clinic. They were giving me stuff for bronchitis. I couldn't move. I was turning like blue and stuff. And my ex at the time, she took me to the hospital. She had to carry me, run cold water on me, carry me to the hospital. They had to take me on a wheelchair. And the nurses, everyone got mad, said, "You're killing yourself. You have less than 50% oxygen. And they didn't know what to do. They said, you got pneumonia. And I look at my ex and we're like shaking our head that the doctors don't even know what the fuck they're doing. Like it was hard, man, going through anger. I've taken two 14-week anger management courses with over 20 men. And then I took a separate one with over 20 women. So I had to see the perspective of each individual women and how they look at men and how they look at like abuse, toxicity. And then I did the same thing with a group of men. And then I did individual, and then I did counseling. I've gone through so much that coaches, gurus, counselors, therapists could not do for me, that I had to learn and discover myself and then just become it and then teach through my own life transformation.
What got you into manifestation, the vibrations, all of that kind of stuff? Because I mean, I've read a lot of things like that through like Esther Hicks. There's, like do you I can see that you fully subscribe to, if you put it out there, like look at what happened to the Broken Home podcast. You said you manifested, all of a sudden now you're on a show called Broken Home.
Yeah. There's two parts to this. So I'm going to admit that, yeah, I eventually started to discover there are people in the world that teach the things that I was doing after my car accident. But when my car accident before, I didn't have any clue about personal growth or development. I didn't know about anything. Like I said, I didn't know about love. I didn't know about manifestation. I didn't know nothing. So when I was going through what I was doing to shift my reality, it wasn't through learning through any external sources. It was through me and what I was bending and shifting. And then when I first landed on a podcast or a Netflix, show or movie about personal growth, or saw Tony Robbins or saw an interview, I was like, it was like, when the angels woke up, like, what? And I was like, what? Holy smokes, I'm doing this. They're putting words to this. They're putting meaning to it. They're defining it. I'm not crazy. This shit's real. And then I started to tap in. I'm like, oh, Dr. Joe Dispenza, Dr. Bruce. So I am doing it myself. So I didn't have to take any credit from anybody. I didn't have to be like, I learned it and now I'm doing it. I didn't have any book
Mm-hmm.
smarts, but what it did for me was it was like, it gave me more enhancement. It's like, oh, now I can enhance what I already have been doing. So now I'm gonna dive heavy into research and education and develop my mind, develop my spirit, my body, learn about biohacking. Then I tapped 1,000% in. But I knew the essence of it came from me already through
Yeah.
guided intelligence. But the way I teach, I don't teach from a book or I don't teach from a course. I teach from now it makes sense what I do is real. So now I can articulate it better. Now I can teach it better.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, I hope that answers your question, right?
No, yeah, absolutely.
You obviously came from a broken home and it was very toxic. And during your experience, you explained how you felt love and comfort. Was this the first time you actually felt that? And did you actually want to leave that feeling?
I know that was hard to leave that feeling and that to think about it, I think yeah, to feel that, I think it was given to me probably to recognize, but given to a lot of people to recognize. But I never felt that. Like, yeah, you feel it. Your mom beats the shit out of you and then sits at the edge of your bed and says, sorry for beating the shit out of you. I love you. Good night. Right. But yeah, that was the first time, I guess, to make a decision to go back to what I thought I knew was like a detriment. Like, it was hell for me, but we have to learn and realize that it's heaven on earth. It's not hell, but it was tough to leave. But that's a sacrifice we got to make, man. You know how hard it is to change your life. It's not easy. It's not for everybody. People want to go back into being comfortable. They don't want to do what's hard. They don't want to freaking do what's hard. Like, people don't know what hard is. When I woke up off life support and I thought all was good and I'm all healed, they did the surgeries. Another 3 weeks go by. They're like, you got bleeding in your brain. Because I was shaking my head. I felt gushing and water in my head not being absorbed. And they kept giving me Percocets, morphine, like all the drugs, dosing me. I told the doctor, no, listen, I didn't say no, you dumb, and cuss him out or anything, but I knew he was. And I called him out and he took me into a separate office so everyone didn't hear because I was awake calling him out. And he's like, okay, come. And he told me like the fees and the pricing of the units and how much it costs for the scans and all. I'm like, and in my head, I'm like, I wanted to say, bitch, please, like, but I didn't. I'm like, listen, I don't care. You're gonna send me. I don't care how much it costs. Listen, you got to address this. Stop giving me drugs. You're gonna send me. He sent me the same day. They found blood in my brain, in my head, wasn't being absorbed. Come back. I'm like, obviously, you telling me it's not being absorbed. I'm the one that told you. Like I'm the one that told you. So he ends up saying you need surgery. You got to call your family. It's another 50-50. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, unfortunately, Malcolm, this is another life and death situation. And he scared me right again. And I'm like, what? So I was like, damn, right? And I'm like, I had to learn again that feeling you asked me. How do you enter that compassion again? And how do you surrender, right? How do you do all that? So I just had to do it, man. I called my mom and I was like worried. She told me, she's like, hey, I just read The Secret. She's like, I'm like, my mom told me she read The Secret. Okay, there. And she's like, I just read The Secret. You got to believe. I'm like, this is coming out of my mom's voice. Oh my gosh. And I'm like, whatever. Like, I didn't want to say nothing. I knew I had to just not explode, not worry, because my spirit was connected to me and knew to calm down, right? Like I couldn't lose myself. And so I go into surgery. I was awake the whole time. The
Yeah.
cold metal drill, they're drilling, and it's like, when you get your teeth cleaned and it's like going everywhere. That's what that felt like. And so I'm awake and I'm like, when the numbing stuff they give you dies off, they can't give you nothing for 4 hours. So then you have to deal with that excruciating pain of having a drill go through your head. And then it's like they leave and they leave you in there. And I'm in the psych ward, right? Because I'm in the ICU in the brain trauma unit. So I'm hearing cuckoos and cuckoos everywhere, and I'm becoming a cuckoo. I'm like shaking the bed, like you watch like Candyman and It. You watch those horror movies. I'm doing all of that. They had to restrain me. They had to put the things on my arms and my legs, and I was tied up to the hospital bed. But I was like shaking it, and I'm like banging and I'm swearing at the nurses. I'm swearing at her, and I don't know if they're laughing at me or they feel sorry for me. Because I was so pissed, and I had to surrender. My spirit finally left my body, and when my spirit left I'm like, finally, thank you. And I leave, and I go and I explore, and then I come back, and then the nurse comes back in. I'm like, thank you. And she's like, we can give you something now. And then that took 20 minutes to kick in. But, just to go through that, was another learning lesson that there's going to be hard times again, like again. And it's like preparation, right? And all of this didn't make me realize then, but not, like not now, but through my years, you realize like, damn, shit's gonna hit the fan again. You're gonna go through a separation, then now your new kid's gonna get taken away from you, and it's like, how do I now transmute that energy to something better, right? So I've gone through so much, even after my car accident. Like I haven't even mentioned some other crazy things, but yeah, that's like, yeah, another broken home podcast will reach out to me for that one.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the difficulty. Like we try to keep it around an hour on here, but your story has so many different levels and so many different avenues that we could take. Like we could follow the broken home part, we could follow the awakening part,
Drugs
and we can make hours upon hours out of it. But I wanted us to touch on a couple of instances that you went through, and I would love to have you back on again so we can get deeper into more of that if you're cool with it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure.
Awesome. When you left your body, did you see any beings that you wouldn't recognize as like human, like alien to you?
No, but when I thought my life review was the life review of near death experiences, I'm telling you, if you thought you were awake, you're not awake even through that awakening. There's layers and levels of awakening we don't know when we come back to planet Earth. I started expanding my mind, my global conscious awareness, and starting to discover. And I don't want to mention to get flagged or you get you guys flagged or anything, but the dark stuff like the elites, the agendas, the COVID, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
The sex, child trafficking agendas, and the holy, blah, blah, So I don't want to say it to flag anything, but bro, there's more awakenings happening now than what I thought I went through, and there's so much that people need to wake up to, that if they think this story is crazy, wait till I share more stories, off camera. There's things that we don't know. There's things that we need to know, and we're blind. We're sheeple, man. I was like maybe what I know even now, I'm still a sheeple. Whew. We're all still sheeple because there's always something else we don't know.
That's right.
And you know what I mean, what I'm hinting to, right?
Yeah.
Before we wrap this up, you started guided intelligence. Tell us about that.
When I was going through another awakening, I was going through a different awakening. Like I thought the hustle, the grind, the 9 to 5 was the jam. Like I was, and then I thought quitting the 9 to 5 and becoming an entrepreneur and getting commission and making my own sales quotas was the shit, right? I'm like, okay, now I can make 6K, 8 grand, 10 grand. Oh man, I can make 20 grand. I thought that was the stuff. And I'm like, okay, And then when I started to lose my passion, I started to question and tap in and be like, what's going on? You're number one in Canada. You're number one in Western Canada. You're number one in this industry. You're number one in Rogers. You're number one in Shaw. You're number one out of all these companies. You know, every company you join, you become number one in 1 month. You know, the top person in Canada has been the top for 6 years. Then who's this guy that shows up? And in 1 month, you beat that guy. I started losing my drive and passion. And I started to tap in and ask myself, what's going on? The what's going on told me, quit your job. And then the what's going on told me, and I said, what else? What's next? What else should I do? I said, because I listened, learn about the food industry. Oh, what else should I do? Don't go to work, go home, tell your spouse. She's 8 months pregnant. For real? Yeah, go tell her. And I was just guided. And then through all of that, then one day I'm sitting on my couch and I'm just, and I'm already trying I'm already not trying, I'm doing cold showers. I'm heavy into intermittent fasting. I'm already into learning about biohacking. I'm already developing so many other areas in my life and learning forgiveness and stuff. And then I said, what, who am I? Who is this? What am I supposed to do? Like, this is like after weeks and weeks of going through this questioning and listening, questioning and listening, questioning and listening. And I get a whisper. And it whispered so low, like intelligence. And I'm like, come again. What is that? What is that? And then it said it again, guided intelligence. And I'm like, and so people think it's a brand, it's something I thought of, creative, I'm a creator, I'm this content thing. No, it literally spoke to me and it said like guided intelligence. Right away, I got up, I went to my email, typed it in, changed my email name, changed my Google name, and I'm like, okay, I got it. And I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know. And then years went by. My kid got older. He was just like 1 years old, 2, 3, 4 years old. And I had another baby. And I was going through so many other changes. And I started to get more downloads and uploads and whispers that you need to write a book. My son published a self-help book at 3.5 years old called Arnav's Affirmations. And we published that in 6 hours. And it downloaded into me. And I started to, realize like, damn, we could do this stuff like the Matrix, like Neo. Like we could just ask for commands and demands and compellings and dwellings that I teach in my curriculum how to do it. And then it would come to me. And I just listen. Sometimes we gotta surrender, be in the unknown knowingly. We gotta be comfortable being uncomfortable and be okay with that. It was scary to leave. That's what people think is success. I would tell people, they're like, you're making more than me. Right. And I'm like, but I'm not happy. In me, I was like thinking, but I'm not happy. We're still fighting about money. We're still arguing about this and that. We're still arguing about the kids. We're still fighting. We're still threatening each other. So money wasn't it. Like where is happiness? What is purpose? What is fulfillment? And sometimes it's just emptying everything out and minimalizing your life and letting go and learning how to just surrender and just forget about what you think you're chasing, the success, the fame and all this stuff. And then, when it comes to you in the midst of being okay, not having anything at all, that's the best feeling ever, to be happy. What is it to feel rich when you're legit broke? And that's what I started to do. What is it? I was on food stamps when she was 8 months pregnant. We had a baby and stuff like that. And going from that much money to saying, let's eat rice and beans. Oh, wait, rice has too much starch. I was stressing her out because I was going through so many information. Like I was learning about keto. I was learning about paleo. I was learning, and I'm like, man, this woman's going through so much and she's just supporting me through it. We're not together now. We grew apart, but we had a journey together, man. I grew a lot, and that relationship taught me love, learning how to go through all the ups and downs, all the turmoil, abuse, sticking with one woman. I've never been in a relationship for 10 years in my entire life. That was the first one, having two kids, so that I think that was really a good foundation for me to practice. And it, as shameful as that sounds, to let a woman go through all that just to grow, but we both grew. I did my manifestation. She grew her success, her career thrived, and so many things. Our children are amazing. My son's an actor. He's been in the Last of Us and, Heartland, and doing all these commercials for like all the home builders and Edo Japan and stuff like that. Like we've done our part. We've done things. He has a published self-help book and stuff like that, but it doesn't come through. People don't see what you put in every day. People don't see your crying, your tears, I cry, I shake, I get nervous, but it's through the pain and suffering, right? People think they have anxiety, but they stay in it. I get anxiety, but it's like I tell that anxiety to shut the fuck up, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But people, you can let that shit stay and you can identify with it, or you could be like, nah, I'm doing this. I'm going somewhere. You ain't dragging me down again. No.
We always ask our guests to give a positive message to the youth or anybody that can relate to your experience before we wrap it up. What would you have to say for them?
I would, there's so much, but I would say sit in the suffering differently. Change your perspective of how you feel and the way you think. Just realize that you need to learn to observe and notice. You're not your thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Although it feels so heavy and real, if you can just separate and observe and notice it, that's the first step. Just start there and never go to bed with your emotions inside. There's so much I can teach, but, just face your fraudulence. It's not about love, 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 love all the time. Sometimes you admit and sacrifice and blame yourself, condemn yourself, and judge yourself. Look at yourself in the eyes, right? And then go through the transformation to forgive and love yourself. But don't just love yourself and forgive yourself. Go through it, fix it, tweak it, adjust it. Don't just take programs and courses and stuff, because trust me when I say this, I have clients that work for NASA, work for Google, work for big corporations, and they come to me for me to get them to realize that they have to face their fraudulence as well. It's not about the programs and the accolades and all the masters and the cheese and the qigong and all of the meditation certifications and Reiki healer things you accumulate. Those things won't fix you. You know what I mean? So there's definitely a different process, and a lot of people are still on that journey, and you're no different. Don't compare yourself to the next guy. There's no competition. You're your only competition.
Beautiful. Awesome.
Where can the people find you?
guidedintelligence.ca and Guided Intelligence on social media, or just Google Malcolm Nair or Guided Intelligence. You'll find me.
Nice.
Awesome. Anybody you want to give a shout out to before we close it down?
No, I appreciate you guys, my kids. I appreciate the community. I don't know, Source, myself, my spirit.
Viewers, make sure you follow Malcolm. Check out his website, and hopefully you guys can subscribe and maybe learn something, open up your mind a bit. Thank you very much, everybody, and thank you, Malcolm, for joining us today.
Welcome. Thank you very much. I appreciate you too.
Broken Home Podcast, everybody. Have a great week.